Welcome to our class. We're going to be focusing on a stretching class today, but specifically focusing on the muscles that can make walking easier. So I'm going to do a little bit of a demonstration and we'll get right into the class. So the muscles that tend to get most tight when MS is involved, move my screen down a little bit. Oh, Finn's there. Hi, Finn. So the muscles that tend to get really tight and then limit our walking. One is our hip flexors. So when these are tight, it pulls us forward. And sometimes it looks just like this, like your back is flat, but you're walking hinged forward. And other times you're hinged and rounded and you're just really coming down here. Again, that can be caused from hip flexor tightness. So we're going to stretch our hip flexors. Another one is our quads. If our quads are tight, it straightens our knee. And therefore, the walking might look like this, where you swing around, or hip hiking, because your knee's not bending. So you got to get that leg through in some way. The third is your hamstrings. When your hamstrings are tight, it shortens your leg. But when you're walking, what that looks like is you're crouched. So I don't know if you experience this or if you've seen other people walk like this, but if your hamstrings are tight, usually you walk like this. So your knees kind of just stay bent. They never fully extend. The fourth one is our calf muscles back here. When our calf muscles are tight, it pulls our toes down. So this is one contributing factor to foot drop. But even if you have good strength on the front of your ankle, if your calf muscles are tight, you would see walking like this, where you land with your toes, not just regular foot drop, but your toes just stay pointed down the whole time. So those are the stretches that we'll be focusing on today. And then we'll do one for our core as well, just because why not? As with every class though, even with stretching, we're going to start with our cardio. So when you're ready, just sit up tall, but shake everything out. Nice and loose. All right. And when you're ready, hands in light fists, and we'll start with my favorite, which is our arm swing. So again, I'm in the middle of my chair and not reclined too much, but go ahead and swing those arms. See something in the chat. Keep going. I'm just gonna, yeah, my left leg continually locks and hyperextends. Yeah, so this will be a good class. So of course, improving walking requires improvements in strength and balance, but a lot of people forget that flexibility is equally as important. So that's how we're going to focus on that component today. But keep swinging, swinging, swinging. Again, with cardio, the way to make it more intense is to either go faster or more movement or more power. So really punching up towards the ceiling. Keep going. All right, and as always, we're going to end with 5 faster seconds. In 3, 2, 1, go as fast as you can for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and slow it down. Then stop, shake out your arms, shake out your hands. Just as a reminder, cardio is a great exercise to do prior to any type of MS-specific strengthening or stretching, balance, because it primes your brain for neuroplasticity. So that's why we prioritize it first. Let's go right into our second ones, hands in nice light fists and punch forward, just regular forward punches. Try your best to stay at shoulder height. So this height right here. But if you have any shoulder limitations or pain or just any discomfort, just punch down towards your knees. Same exercise. To increase your heart rate even more, if you need to, add more power or go faster. Whatever works for you. Or maybe a combination of both. Keep punching. And you don't have to get too caught up in what position your fist is in. Some people keep their fist forward like this, others punch down. Some are anywhere in between, whatever works for you. We're just getting our heart rate up. All right, in 3, 2, 1, go fast. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and slow it down. Stop, shake everything out, shake your hands out too. Our final cardio one is our rotation punches. So same thing we were just doing, but instead of forward, we're gonna twist to the side. You're not necessarily twisting as far as you can go because that would slow you down. Again, this is for cardio. So turn, but at a rate where you can still keep up your pace and or add that power. The power with each move can also increase your heart rate. Keep going. Twist, 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 whatever speed feels comfortable to you. Hyphen. You want to join us? Keep going. So we're going to end with 5 faster seconds, just like we did with our first 2, but we're not going to turn as much. So you keep going at your pace, but it's going to look like this. So it's still a turn, but not as far as you're turning right now. In 3, 2, 1, and go fast. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and stop, slow it down. Shake everything out, shake your hands out. And by the way, if these exercises didn't increase your heart rate enough, you can either hold on to very light weights, like 1 pound in each hand or 2 pounds, and or talk out loud like I am while we're doing them. That increases your heart rate too. Okay, let's get to stretching. So as I mentioned, we're doing our hip flexors, our quads, hamstrings, and calf muscles, all from a seated position. So my favorite hip flexor stretch is the one where we open our knees and we turn. So make sure you're sitting about the middle of your chair. Open your knees as wide as you can comfortably. Hold on to the front and back of your chair, and then swivel so your front knee comes down. Now you should feel stable. If you don't feel comfortable, make sure that you get into a position where you do feel safe. From here, tuck your butt under. And you should feel a stretch on the front of your hip and maybe even the front of your thigh. If you're really tight, you might even feel it up into your outer abdomen area. And if you don't feel it, you can scoot this leg a little further back and then retuck. And we're just gonna hold here. Keep holding, keep breathing, try not to hold your breath. And slowly relax that leg. We're going to do the other side. Keep your feet planted where they are. Place one hand on the chair if you haven't already on the front and swivel to the other side. So now your opposite knee is facing the ground. Another thing I forgot to mention, you'll notice my back foot, my toes are on the floor. If that causes clonus where your knee is bouncing, make sure to release your foot. So the top of your foot is on the floor instead of the balls of your feet. Once you're in this position, again, just tuck your hips under, round your hips. And you should feel the stretch in the front of your hip or the front of your thigh, wherever it's tightest for you. Keep breathing. If you do need more of a stretch, which this should be enough of a stretch, but sometimes people need a bigger stretch, round your body more. So don't lose the tuck. The tuck in your hip is most important, but round further. And again, untuck and scoot that leg further away from you than retuck. So the further away that front foot is, the more of a stretch you'll feel there. When you're ready, relax. Let the knee relax, everything relaxes, and swivel back to the center. You can actually keep your feet out for now. I'm going to add an unexpected stretch. Another muscle group that gets really tight is our inner thighs. And when these muscles are tight, the way that we walk is in a very narrow line. So we walk either with a very narrow gait where our feet are very close to each other, or even worse, a tandem gait where our legs cross in front each time. And that is very dangerous because it can cause falls and tripping over your own feet. So to stretch that out, keep your knees wide and hinge forward. You should feel a stretch on the inner thighs. Now, I like to add a twist. So I'm going to twist toward my left. And when I do that, I feel more of a stretch on my inner right thigh. And when you're ready, come back to the center and then keep twisting all the way over to the other side. So when I'm twisting towards my right, I feel it more in my left inner thigh. But if it feels better to you to just stay forward, you can do that too. Or if this bothers your hands or wrists, you can come down to your forearms. And when you're ready, come back to the center and sit up tall. Shake those wrists out. That sometimes bothers my wrists. It's a lot of pressure. Just shake them out. When you're ready, bring your knees in. All right. So we did our hip flexors and our inner thighs. Now we're going to do we did our hip flexors and quads and our inner thighs. So now we're going to move to our hamstrings. I'm just going to change the angle of my chair. So you're going to sit towards the edge of your chair, up nice and tall, and straighten your leg. For this one, don't worry about what your ankle's doing. It doesn't matter. So the knee should be as straight as possible and sit up tall, almost like you're arching your lower back. So opposite of our hip flexor when we were rounding. So you're up here. If you need more of a stretch, you can, ooh, this is tight, hinge forward. And you'll know you're doing this stretch right if you feel it behind your knee or behind your thigh. You'll feel it wherever you are tightest. And that might be different from me, might be different from your neighbor, it might be different for you today and tomorrow. But anywhere in that area is fair game. When you're ready, sit up tall. And as best as you can, don't use your hands to bend that knee and bring it in. Try twice. If it didn't work, go ahead and use your hands, but at least try twice not to use your hands. And again, try not to use your hands as you straighten your other leg out. Might require some shimmying, especially if you carpet or your foot's stuck on the ground. Once that knee is as straight as possible, and if you do need to use your hands to assist it to get into the right position, that's fine. But once that knee is straight, hands come on the bottom of your opposite thigh, sit up tall, and if you need to increase the stretch, you can hinge forward. Again, it doesn't really matter what your ankle is doing. Our next stretch is the calf stretch, which is the same thing, but we are going to focus on pulling our ankle up. However, if your toes are pointed more down, you may also feel a stretch on the front of your shin. And that can be really great if you have tightness in that area. I usually like to leave it somewhere in the middle though, so whatever feels good to you. All right, and come all the way back up. Try your best not to use your hands as you bring that knee in. Again, try twice, and if it still doesn't work, go ahead and use your hands, and then shake your wrists out. Again, anytime you're putting pressure on your wrist, that can make it a little bit more challenging. Okay, now we're moving on to our calf muscle. When these are tight, it increases foot drop. So I actually am going to use a cane. I forgot to pull it out before I started this class, but you can use any non-stretchy strap or band or item if you have it nearby. So another option is the leg lifter. So these are my favorite two things to use for stretching my calf muscle, but a yoga strap works great. A bathrobe belt works great. A resistance band is stretchy, so it's not the best thing to use, but if that's all you've got, that's a fine option too. So go ahead and choose whatever you'd like to use and stay in that same position as the hamstring stretch. So that knee is straight. And if you don't have a strap or anything to use, just try to keep your toes up. Now, that's probably going to be really challenging because of ankle weakness, but just lift them up as much as you can, even if it's barely any amount, and lean forward. But if you do have an object, hook it around your foot and your arms do the pulling for you instead of your ankle. So once you're here, again, if you need more of a stretch, you can hinge forward with a flat back. And when you're ready, if you are using an object, relax your arms so you let that go. And then try your best not to use your hands as you bring one knee in and then straighten the other one. And once you're in the position that you should be in, if you're using an object, go ahead and pull your toes up. And there are days where my calf muscles are so tight where I don't hinge forward at all. I just stay here. But if I am feeling a little bit more flexible, I'll sit up taller and even arch forward a little more. And when you're ready, sit back up tall. You can release the object and try your best not to use your hands to bring it in. Nice job. So we're just going to end with one. I had mentioned I want to stretch our core out a little bit. So the final stretch of this sequence, and then we'll repeat it, is going to be a twist. So sit about in the middle of your chair. Your feet should be firmly planted on the ground. One hand is placed on the opposite outer thigh. So my right hand comes to my left outer thigh. Left hand comes somewhere behind you. And I want you to use your arms to twist. Don't use your core muscles. This is not a core strengthening exercise, but more of a core release exercise. Keep breathing if you can. And when you're ready, slowly release that and just keep twisting all the way over to the other side. Shake your arms out if you need to. And once you're there, one hand is placed on the opposite outer thigh, other hand comes back, then use your arms to twist. And unwind when you're ready. Shake everything out, take some deep breaths. If you've got some water, mine's up here, go ahead and take a sip of water. All right, and we'll go for round two. Now, as I mentioned, and as you are aware, all of these are seated stretches. There are ways to do these same stretches in a standing position. I just personally like to offer seated stretches because it takes balance out of the equation. Your muscles are not working as much as they need to when you're standing. And if your muscles aren't working as much, you can get a more effective stretch. So that's why I like seated stretches. When you're ready, we're going to start with our hip flexors and our quads again. So open those knees and your feet as wide as you can. Grab onto your chair in the front and back and pivot so that the front knee comes down Readjust so you feel stable. And then once you're here, tuck under. If you don't feel much of a stretch, try to shimmy that front foot back further and tuck from there. Just a reminder too, if you get clonus, you can unfold your foot. You'll know you're doing the stretch correctly if you feel it in the hip flexor area and or your quads, the front of your thigh. And again, if you're really tight, you might feel it up here in your abdomen. Hold here. Keep breathing. And when you're ready, relax. So stop tucking, relax the leg. Hold on. If you did let go with either hand, hold on to the chair again and pivot all the way over to the other side. Shimmy around. Once you are in a position that feels comfortable and safe, go ahead and tuck your hips. If you don't feel the stretch, scoot that leg further back or just round more. The beautiful thing about stretching is that we all might look a little bit different, which is why it's so important that you know where you should feel it. So even if you look different from me, if you're feeling it in the area that I'm telling you you should feel it, you're doing it right. So don't feel like you need to look exactly like me or the next person. And again, you should feel this in the front of your hip or the front of your thigh, maybe the lower belly. And relax. All right, when you're ready, pivot back to the middle. Keep your feet out wide, and we're gonna do our inner thigh stretch. So again, you can use your hands like this, or you can come down under your forearms, whichever you prefer. And you can stay straight the whole time, but if you do wanna follow me, twist in one direction. You're pushing your knees out the whole time. You're not just resting down on top of your thighs. Your palms are in your inner thighs and pushing your knees out. That's how you get that inner thigh stretch. And when you're ready, turn in the other direction if you were turning. Come back to the center and come all the way back up. Shake those wrists out, especially if you did have your hands on your lap. And then bring your legs back together. Nice. That's 3 muscle groups with those 2 exercises that we just did. So the next is our hamstring. Again, I'm just going to turn to the side so you can see the angle of the knee a bit better. Sit at the edge of your chair. So scoot forward. Try your best not to use your hands as you straight in that knee. Doesn't matter what the ankle is doing. Place your hands on the opposite lower thigh. Sit up tall. And if you need more of a stretch, you can hinge forward. So you'll know you're doing this correctly if you feel it anywhere from behind your knee up into behind where the bone that you sit on are sit bones. Anywhere in there is fair game. That's where our hamstrings are. Come back up tall. Try your best not to use your hands as you bend your knee and other leg comes out straight. The knee is as straight as possible. Place your hands down, sit up tall, and hinge. And it's okay if your knee is not fully straight. Sometimes spasticity prevents your knee from straightening all the way. As long as it's as straight as you can get it, you should still feel the stretch in the right area. All right. And when you're ready, sit up tall, shake your hands out if they need that break, bring that knee in, and then we're moving right into our calf stretch. So if you do have something nearby that is not stretchy that you can use to assist, go ahead and grab that. And then straighten your knee. But if you are using something, you'll place it under the balls of your feet and pull with your arms. If you're not, just do your best at lifting your toes up, even if it's not much at all, and try to keep them up as you lean forward. And that's when you'll feel the stretch anywhere behind your lower leg, so behind your knee to behind your heel. All right, so get into that position. And if you're not already, lean into it if you need more of a stretch. And sit up tall if you are leaning forward. Relax everything, let go of the object. Bring your knee back in. Try not to use your hands. Straighten your other leg. If you are using something, go ahead and hook it around your foot. Either way, get your toes up, sit up tall, and if you need more of a stretch, hinge forward. And then sit up tall again, relax. You can slouch a little, let the object go, bring your knee in. Give yourself a second to just relax here in this position. And we'll do our final stretch, which is our rotation. So again, we're trying to use our arms for this, not your core. You can do a very similar exercise, but for core strengthening, but that's not our goal today. So one hand goes on the opposite outer thigh, the other hand comes to the back of your chair, relax your belly muscles, and use your arms to twist as far as you can. Keep breathing. It can be easy to hold our breath in this position, but do your best not to. And when you're ready, turn to the other side, slow and steady. Opposite hand goes on the opposite thigh, the other hand comes back and twist. And slowly release. Come back to the center, shake everything out. If there is another body part that you want to stretch right now, go ahead and go for it. One that is always great to do is a neck stretch. I love that one. But because we were focusing on walking today, we just focused on leg and the core. But if there is another stretch you want to do right now, go for it.